Garmaigad Echan Corlia. Agus a réir thugan rialtas is leidú mar a doctor ar fetrol agus diesel agus an céine a dhearú arú sin. Ach ag dul trasna ein station fetrol ar maidin ní hóra ein daine faidir ar sin mar gohfuil an price a chud is mód na station ar maidin nniu níos tíre na bhí se ar maidin de mart agus go leora go fáil gearú ní smó na €1 an litre ar fetrol agus diesel. Agus ní runnin rialtas ein rud ó hiú an céin a te dhearú arú ó hiú alle tithe. Agus gan doubt jéadú ní smó a dhéanú, ach chur an rialta seo gonne leasí Sinn Féin a degu go mbeadh na price na seo níos ísle. Minister, last night the government introduced a so-called reduction in excise duty on petrol and diesel, but passing any filling station this morning, nobody would have noticed, because the price in most filling stations this morning is more than what they were on Tuesday morning, with many still charging over €2 per litre. So the reduction, Minister, has been immediately eroded, and that is the likely trajectory. Prices are going to continue to go up, and it's something that ordinary workers, ordinary families simply can't afford because it comes on top of already skyrocketing costs of living. Minister, people are panicking out there. People are struggling. They're struggling to make ends meet, and the government doesn't seem to understand that. Doesn't seem to understand the pressure that workers and families are under, doesn't seem to understand that businesses and farmers are now being pushed to the pin of their collar, because half measures simply doesn't cut it. You could have done more, but what you did instead was oppose Sinn Féin's amendments last night that would have brought prices at the pump down further. The fact that you didn't do that is indicative of the fact that the government is completely out of touch. There were no measures, none whatsoever, to reduce the cost of home heating oil, which has more than doubled since January of this year. That could have been reduced by as much as €100 on a 1,000-litre fill, but no reduction. Worse than that, you plan to increase the cost of home heating oil on the 1st of May by a further €20. Supporting our amendments, Minister, last night would have delivered for workers and families. And the Taoiseach yesterday misled this House, saying there's no excise on home heating oil. That is simply not true. To quote the Minister for Finance in a written parliamentary response to Deputy Verona Murphy, referring to kerosene, which is home heating oil, he said, "This excise duty is called mineral oil tax." And we know that mineral oil tax on home heating oil is levied at over €84 per 1,000 litres. So, Minister, excise on home heating oil can and must be reduced, reducing the cost of a fill by up to €100. Excise on diesel can and should be reduced more than the 15 cent, and excise on petrol needs to be reduced further than the 20 cent that was agreed last night. The government's claim of doing all we can simply doesn't stick up. So more needs to be done. Much more needs to be done, Minister. And you've been advising people to slow down. Well, let me tell you what the public are telling me. The public are telling me that you and your government need to hurry up. You need to get your act together and you need to bring these prices down further, because people can take it no longer. So will the government commit to reducing excise duty further on petrol and diesel? Will you commit to taking action to reduce the cost of home heating oil immediately? And will you call on the petrol stations, who are undoubtedly engaging in price gouging at this time of crisis? Because strong words at a parliamentary party meeting are not enough. We need action, and we need action now. We need leadership.
Thank you, Deputy Doherty. Minister, just before calling you in, and we might stop the clock, we have a very distinguished visitor joining us in the gallery today, the Canadian Ambassador, Her Excellency Ms Nancy Smith. And I'm sure we all want to extend a very warm Céad Míle Fáilte to her, and she's joined by her colleague from the Embassy, Jackie Ellis, and by our colleague David Stanton, who is doing an outstanding job as Chairman of the Canada-Ireland Parliamentary Friendship Group. And I'm hoping that via the Ambassador's visit and the work of the Friendship Group, that links cultural, social, economic and political will be strengthened in the period ahead. Céad Míle Fáilte. Now, Minister, please.
This energy price crisis has been with us now for the guts of a year, and the government has taken a series of responses. In last year's budget in October, where we increased the fuel allowance, increased the qualified child allowance, working family payments, living alone allowance, targeted to address those at most at risk of fuel poverty. 3 weeks ago, we went further with a €500 million package €200 credit, which people will start to see coming into their helping with their bills. It won't cover the full increase, but helping this month. Public transport fares, 20% reduction, started coming down yesterday in the first of a series of fare reductions, increasing again the fuel allowance and helping with school transport and other costs. But again, that's not going to cover the full cost of what's happening. And since then, a war has started on our continent, and our first thoughts is to actually, how can we help, how can we address that, the humanitarian side, but also the underlying problem, and the underlying roots or cause behind some of this is our reliance on imported fossil fuel. The fact that so much money is going from Europe to Russia every day, that's the fundamental problem that we have to address. And we went further yesterday with the cut in excise and petrol and diesel. We said when we did that this would not cover the full cost and that this is a market which is incredibly volatile, beyond precedent. On Tuesday, the wholesale market for diesel in Dublin and Ireland went up 22 cents. Yesterday, it went down something similar. It's yo-yoing, it's dramatic. And we can't be exactly certain where it's going to go or where this war will go. We will have to manage it. It will serve no one if we panic. Our panicked response, we have to be methodical and keep responding the same way we did to COVID by being flexible and quick. We would love to go further, and of course we would, but the first thing we do, the Canadian ambassador will know this, we stand for the rule of law. This conflict is ultimately, in my mind, between the rule of international law and democratic constitutional legal systems and those who take a different view of how the world should be run. But the rule of law protects us. The rule of law gives us strength. European law especially in this country. And yes, so what we did within the European law. And that was correct. And the law may change. Taoiseach will be there today, I'm sure, at the European Council, looking to see what more can we do, what further flexibilities, what further protections and help. But we will always do it within European law. On home heating oil, you say, and we had the discussion 3 weeks ago, we have different views. Well, this tax on the home heating is largely carbon tax. That's the form of excise. 8.5 cents a litre, as you say. Now, is Sinn Féin saying that we should remove that? We should get rid of all the carbon tax revenue? The problem I have, as I said 3 weeks ago, with that is that would in turn remove the money we use to give the 100% grant to people's homes to help them cut their bills. That's the choice that we have to think about. Or if it's just that we don't apply the increase, which has been Sinn Féin policy, in fairness, you've been saying that we should retain the carbon tax but not apply the further increases. But if you look at that on an average fulfill, it might give people 5 cents a day. And 5 cents a day is not going to protect people or cover the full costs. We have to look at other means and other measures, and we will. Efficiency measures as well as price reductions. We have to ultimately, more than anything else, switch from foreign fuels to using our own. And that's something I think Sinn Féin would surely support. Switch the oil to wind. And in that way, provide security for our people, cut the bills.
Thank you,
That's
Minister.
the change we need to make.
Deputy Doherty.
Oh, God. Minister, we need to deal with the right here, right now. Let me just explain to you. There's people that's ordering home heating oil now, a fill of home heating oil. In Dublin, they're being charged €1,840. I've seen other costs of close to €2,000. In January, it was €750, about that. So that's over €1,000 more. These families haven't budgeted for that. It's easy for you and your cabinet colleagues to say, let's not panic. You'll be able to afford that extra cost. Many people out there can't afford that. So while you talk about, well, we don't want to reduce the tax on home heating oil, people are saying, do everything that you can to help me, to help my family, to help my business, to help the farmers at this point in time. And do it within inside the law. But you can. Right now, tonight, you could have supported last night's amendments where we would have reduced the cost of home heating oil by €100. It's not enough, but at least it's what we could do right here, right now. Your government should have been asking the European Union for the flexibility of that right back in September when we were putting it to Pascal Donoghue. But like yourself, he sat in his hands and he let this crisis get out of control. We can reduce diesel further. We can reduce petrol further. You need to understand that people are panicking and they need support from government. They don't need to be told to slow down. They're telling you, hurry up, get your act together and get these prices down further.
Minister.
That advice to slow down got a lot of criticism yesterday, but it was an answer to a straight question. What are the sort of efficiency measures we could do? And it's just a fact that if you're, let's say, driving down from Donegal, let's say, which is a long distance, people, particularly in rural Ireland, are most exposed. If we're on a motorway, wouldn't be on the Donegal route, but elsewhere, going from 120 kilometres down to 100 could save you about 20% plus. And that's real. That's absolute law of physics. And that measure is also important, efficiencies. Yes, we will look at whatever other measures we can do. The Taoiseach, I'm sure today, I was talking to him last night in advance of his going, is going to be working with European colleagues to see, can we do further, can we do more? But there's a certain point where we are actually exposed. And that exposure is the reliance on fossil fuels. And that is why efficiency also matters. And making the switch also matters. People are very upset this morning because they're looking to see on the forecourts and they see that the price hasn't changed. But the problem is that price is probably set several days ago, depending on different stations, as to when the excise was applied. So this is highly volatile. It's subject to real change. We are absolutely tuned to the difficulties Irish families have, and that's why we're continuing to make the sort of measures we've introduced.
Deputy Gary